500th year, Danish border. A group of warriors notice a troll along the way and drive it near a cliff. After shooting at the monster with a bow, they set it on fire and make it fall down. Hrothgar approaches the edge of the cliff and notices a small boy, the son of a troll, hiding nearby. The Danish king decides to let him live, believing that he poses no threat. The boy, unable to drag his father's body, deprives him of his head in order to take it to his cave and remember what happened all his life. 20 years later, Grendel is still driven by the desire for revenge and sneaks into Hrothgar's village at night to take the lives of several soldiers. After surviving a shipwreck, the greatest warrior Beowulf finds himself ashore. The fisherman helps him come to his senses and get some rest before the warrior returns to his home. Having learned about what is happening among the Danes, he decides to talk to the leader of the Gauts in order to provide them with support and save them from evil. The next morning, a group of 13 Gauts, led by Beowulf, goes to the Danes in the domain of Hrothgar to help them fight the troll terrorizing the village. Along the way, the sea monster attacks Beowulf and grabs the man's hand, but he reacts to this too calmly, as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, an enraged Hrothgar goes out hunting at night. He calls on Grendel to come out and fight man to man, but Grendel ignores him. Having waited for the right moment, the troll attacks the king's guard and takes his life. The king is disappointed in his helplessness and is ready to say goodbye to his life, if only the troll does not touch the rest of the inhabitants of his domain. His wife supports Hrothgar, believing that he is not guilty of the horrors taking place. Soon the soldier's funeral takes place, to which Father Brendan comes. The Christian priest is sure that the problem of the Danes is faith, because they need to go through life with God in heart. Father Brendan is convinced that the monster will not harm him when he meets him, since he is a believer and has no evil thoughts. Meanwhile, the queen turns to the witch Selma for help to protect her husband from the evil troll using magic. Gauts arrives on the Danish coast. The observer receives strangers with hostility, but welcomes them upon learning that among them is the great and mighty Beowulf, a warrior about whom legends are made. Once in the village, the soldiers see the fallen people, mourning over the grief that Grendel brought to their lands. A drunken Hrothgar meets Beowulf and thanks him for coming, because only this warrior is able to track down the troll and take his life. In the evening, in the bar, the arriving soldiers are offered to choose their brides, because among the girls present there are many widows ready for a new marriage. The king is asked to say a few words, but Hrothgar is so drunk and overwhelmed with grief that he is unable to give a pep talk. The queen helps her husband and calls on the warriors to fight to overcome the darkness and give the Danes a peaceful life. Grendel remains nearby and contemplates his next move to harm the king and his domain. Beowulf promises the king to solve the problem and execute the troll who is terrorizing his domain. Unfert is skeptical about his words, because Grendel dealt with 20 soldiers without any particular difficulties, and there were only 13 Gauts. Beowulf is not embarrassed by this, because they, unlike the Danes, are ready to stay awake and face the enemy at any moment. A little later, Hrothgar personally asks Beowulf for help. He has known him since he was 8 years old and asks the warrior to rid the Danes of the monster once and for all. If this is not done, the Swedes and Saxons will understand that their neighbor is weak and attack the Danes to seize new lands. In the evening, Father Brendan, confident in God, remains on his knees near the barracks to pray to higher powers. The Goths do not sleep and wait to meet the enemy, hoping to take him by surprise. Grendel appears in the king's domain and leaves the priest alive and unharmed. Heading towards the barracks, he tries to break down the door, but at the last moment decides not to, urinating before entering. A crowd of Gauts rushes out into the street to fight the enemy, but the troll managed to escape earlier, leaving behind only an unpleasant smell. In the morning, Beowulf and his warriors learn that Father Brendan spent the whole night near the barracks, but remained alive. He explains this by the Christian faith in God, which has incredible power and provides 24-hour protection from monsters. A little later, 13 Goths go in search of the troll's cave. While climbing to the top of the mountain, they accidentally activate a trap consisting of a log and deer antlers. Having miraculously survived, the warriors rise higher and see endless mountains covered with snow. There are no traces of Grendel on them, which means his hideout is elsewhere. Meanwhile, the troll bowls with the heads of the fallen warriors and rejoices at it like a child. Unferth and other Danes, who have lost faith in their god, convert to Christianity. Father Brendan invites them one by one into the cold river, where he reads a prayer and dips the people who have recognized his god. Beowulf is skeptical and goes to the mountains to talk to the witch. Salma is not ready to tell the warrior about his future, but warns that it is better not to touch the troll, because this will bring suffering to both the Gauts and the Danes. Beowulf begins to doubt that Grendel is a monster, because he does not attack children, old people, and sick people. Hrothgar asks not to invent anything, since the troll exterminates the strong and makes children orphans, after which he will take on the weaker and older ones. The next night, the Gauts hear Grendel running on the roof and go outside to fight him. A fast and dexterous troll avoids fights by hiding nearby, thereby teasing the warriors. In the morning, Thorkel tells the children about their confrontation between legend and fairy tale, but Beowulf asks them not to invent nonsense. Gradually, frightened and disappointed in their own abilities, the soldiers lose confidence that they will be able to defeat the troll. Beowulf maintains the morale of his subordinates and trains them in sword fighting, after which he goes to Selma and asks them to tell fortunes on the bones. The witch shows interest in the soldier and hints at intimacy, but he is dedicated to the cause and thinks only about how to catch and neutralize the monster. While telling fortunes, Beowulf hears strange sounds and realizes that Grendel has been nearby all along. The Goth leader and the witch go after the troll, but he is faster and more agile. Throwing stones at Beowulf, Grendel teases him but does not engage in a fight. The warrior does not understand the reason for this behavior, but Selma tells him that the monster's actions are revenge for the sins of the king, and Beowulf did nothing wrong to him. Soon, Hrothgar also loses his faith and converts to Christianity, hoping that in this he will find his salvation. Upon returning to the village, Beowulf saves a cripple whom the children tried to beat for stealing. The unfortunate man thanks the warrior for his help and promises to show him Grendel's cave. Trusting the cripple, a group of 13 Gauts goes to the opposite bank. Finding themselves on a high cliff, they try to get down, but realize that it is too dangerous. One of the warriors decides to urinate on the troll's hideout, after which the warriors return home. Along the way, a sea monster attacks Breck and, grabbing him by the hair, drags him under the water. Beowulf and other warriors save their comrade and help him avoid drowning. Another evening passes quietly, as Grendel decided not to disturb the village. In the morning, Beowulf goes outside and realizes that he was mistaken. The troll not only came into the domain of the Danish king, but also took the life of the cripple who showed the way to his cave. A little later, a group of Gauts climb down a rope into the monster's lair. Among the bones and helmets of fallen warriors, Thorkel finds the skull of the troll's father. After spitting on him, the warrior curses the deceased and his family, breaking the skull into pieces. Upon returning to the village, Beowulf climbs the mountain to the witch and ties her up, forcing her to take him to Grendel. The girl refuses to help the warrior because she believes that the troll is right in this situation and has not done anything wrong. He takes revenge for his late father on the king and his relatives, but at the same time does not harm innocent people. Meanwhile, Grendel returns to the cave and finds his father's broken skull. Having identified the scent of the person who committed this, the monster goes to the barracks and attacks a crowd of Gauts. Finding Thorkel among them, Grendel takes his life and tries to escape. Beowulf does his best to prevent this and uses a trap to catch the troll. The captive Grendel does not intend to give up, despite the fact that his hand is in a rope and there is no chance of getting out. An armed warrior attacks the troll with a spear, but he breaks it and amputates his arm with the sharp end to escape. A monster that falls into the water is picked up by a sea monster to drag it to its refuge. At dawn, Thorkel's funeral takes place, and Hrothgar thanks Beowulf for his help, assuming the troll is no longer alive. The king is disappointed in himself because he could have taken Grendel's life when he was a boy, but was unable to do so, which led to dire consequences. A group of Goths go in search of the troll and finally come to the conclusion that he did not survive due to his injuries. In the evening, the Danes, intoxicated by the good news, rush around with Grendel's hand as a symbol of victory. Leaving it in a prominent place, they drink, dance, and have fun, waiting for the beginning of a calm and peaceful life. Beowulf goes to the witch and learns that she protected the troll, considering him good. One day, Grendel visited her and took her by force, after which Selma had a son. Now she invites Beowulf to make love and hits him in the face, after which the couple spend the night together. A sea monster, who turns out to be Grendel's mother, comes to land to take revenge. The female monster takes the life of Brendan's father and then heads to the bar. Noticing her son's hand, the troll woman takes the lives of everyone present and takes the severed limb for herself. Meanwhile, Selma's son returns home, and the witch, leaving Beowulf in her bed, goes with him to the troll's lair. The king learns of what happened and raises the alarm, realizing that this is not the end of the battle with the monsters. The next morning, the Goths go to the cave and find a secret underwater passage. Beowulf takes off his mail and goes to the second part of the cave, where he finds Grendel's lifeless body. Here, the troll woman attacks the warrior, but he manages to defeat the enemy and take her life with one blow of his sword. A little boy protects the body of his fallen father and meets Beowulf with a sword in his hands. The warrior understands that his son has the right to behave this way and throws down his weapon, saying that the war is over. Having completed his mission, Beowulf plans to return to his homeland. He bids farewell to the king, promising a peaceful life for his domains, and meets with Selma. The warrior asks the witch to hide his son from the public so that people will not be a threat to him. Realizing that Grendel was not a monster, Beowulf builds a grave of stones to honor the troll's memory. Soon the Goths return home, and Beowulf sees Selma and her son on the shore, coming to terms with their loss. Thanks for watching. We hope you really enjoyed watching. See you soon.